Inside at last.
Podcast. My name is Alex, and today I am joined by Jiggity Jake. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? How's it going, Alex?
And I'm fine, and Siggity Seth.
Hello.
And I'm so great that he's back. Niggity Nex. Yeah, it's great that you are here as well again.
Hey guys, glad to be back.
Some celebrations. Yeah, today is our real. Yeah, it's the second try on with the live stream podcast, right? I think so, guys. Just let us know in the chat if you can hear us properly and everything. We will have some gameplay later, and if you have some thoughts on the mission or on our shit we're talking about, just let us know in the chat on YouTube. That would be great. Yeah, it's the 25th anniversary of our little show here, and we chose the best mission ever to talk about, right?
My favorite.
Ooh, what a doozy.
No, let's be honest. It's episode 25, and it's Trace the Courier Thief 2 Original Mission 8, if my counting was correct. We have been to Truard's Manor. We found him dead. We found a key that probably is owned by Lieutenant Mosley. But before we dive into this, last episode we were talking about our top 3 Thief 1 or Thief Gold missions. And we got a huge comment by Plutonia on this. And I told him that since it's so long, we will answer it on the podcast. So would one of you guys like start to read out the first part of his comment, like the 50 minutes and 2? Because Plutonia was really, really correct with everything and with the time coding and everything. It was great. Thanks, Plutonia, for that comment, by the way.
You can read it out. The 150-20?
Yeah, right. That would be cool.
Sure. Platonia says, I think that regardless of whether the guild is a good or bad mission, Alex's criticism of it is unfounded. There is only one viable route to the guild from the Overlord's fancy. The very first thing you hear from none other than Benny and his grumpy friend is a conversation that tells you where the lock is and where to find the key. So it's not reasonable to hate the mission if you went the wrong way first. That right there is 100% the player's fault for not listening to blatant hints that are actively difficult to avoid listening to. However, ultimately, this is still an indictment of the level design because it's completely linear with no possibilities for sequence breaks. Not exactly something that should be in a Looking Glass game.
Yeah. I think Plutonia that he's mostly right, because I said that what was the idea? It was like, okay, you can go the wrong direction and go to the wrong thief boss first, and then you have to go back to the other one to get the key or something like that, right?
And it's not like it's a short walk.
Yeah, but so what he's pointing out is that you can barely miss it. But I have to say, if you are there for the first time or haven't been there for a long time, it's still not really clear, because the thing is still a huge maze, and I think you can still go the wrong direction and end up at the safe at the beginning, and then you have to find your way to the key first. So it's, yeah, they tried to avoid this, but I think it's not done perfectly.
You also don't know what you're looking for right at the beginning of the mission. Like, you know what you're there for, but you don't know where you're going to have to go to find it.
Correct. So I think he has a point, but still, I think there could have been maybe some more directions. Maybe that you can't even go to the area with the safe or to the bigger part before you have maybe another key to open a gate there. So the first restriction would be you can just go to, I don't know, was it Ruben or the other one? You can't miss it.
I think some of the missions from Thief Gold are not as complete as they could be. Like, I don't think they've gone through as many iterations as some of the other missions have. So if you look at the original missions from the Dark Project, the ones at the beginning have been revised many more times than the Maw has. And it really shows, right? The Maw is kind of unpolished. And I think the gold missions are similar to the later missions in the game in that, like, they're done and they're functional, but they haven't been revised as many times as some of the earlier missions have been. So some of those outstanding issues are still there.
I would
Yeah,
agree. I think.
it's of course because they had like more time for the other ones, you know, and now
Yeah, they cooked longer.
yeah. But Jake, Jake. Oh man, Jake, you wanted to say something. Sorry.
Oh, I would agree. Yeah, I think, in my opinion, and this isn't based on any sort of thing I've heard factually, but I mean, just looking at the timetable, I mean, you had Thief Gold and Thief 2 being worked on pretty much at the same time. So, there's limited resources that Looking Glass had. I mean, those teams are pretty small compared to teams that work on games now. So I'm wondering if, to Seth's point, if the fact that maybe these missions only had kind of a skeleton crew on them is maybe part of the reason why they don't have that extra, possibly didn't have that extra sort of layer of design polish where you would add maybe a readable or something like that to make things like where to go more clear.
Yeah, and my statement isn't, it's definitely not like an attack on the developers, because every game ships with issues the developers are aware of, but you only have so many resources and so many people to throw at them. So, like, something will always go out the door less baked than you want it to.
Of course, but yeah, I think that there is some excuse for the developers, but on the other hand, I think there could have been ideas to prevent this, you know, because we came up with some, and I think they have been really more creative than us. So, but let's go on to his second part of his commentary. Maybe Seth, you might to read that out.
Sure.
145.19.
Trading missions were rather new in games back then. You were expected to read the paper manual that shipped with the game. Lockpicking is not taught in the training mission, not just because you don't get to use that tool from the beginning, but because every aspect of it is intricately described on page 20 of the manual.
And I think he's totally right with that. I didn't think of that when I made the comment that next to put you in the picture, we were talking about there is what was the name where you follow the guys and Assassins, right? And there is a lockpick manual written on the paper, and we were making a bit fun of it and telling that it's not so cool. But we thought it's also a T-fixed thing, right?
I can't remember if it's fixed in T-fix. I probably said the same thing.
But I would totally agree with Plutonia here because, yeah, back in the days you had the manual and you could read it, and yeah, so this problem would have been avoided.
Some of us even had the strategy guide.
Ooh, yeah. Me too. But just for Thief 2, and then I threw it away when I was in puberty because I thought it's stupid, childish thing. Yeah, I'm stupid. So then he had another thing, like about 1 hour, 57 minutes, 17 seconds. Thief 1 has code precedent for arrows affecting the properties of other objects. Namely, water arrows can wash away bloodstains. So having the behavior in a holy water arrow that can bless objects wouldn't have been too far out scope in the programming. It would have just been an entire separate system useful for only a single objective. That was because where I said in the Return to the Cathedral, or Back to the Cathedral, I don't know, there is an object that has to become holy, and I tried holy water arrows on it, but it didn't work, so you just have to put it on that specific place with the holy water in it, I tried something cool, but it didn't work, but of course, we don't blame the authors. The creators.
Yeah, I think maybe that's just something that slipped past, like the design brief, because I think that the team already implemented something that was only used once. You never have to go to the trouble to solve a puzzle like the one in Return to Cathedral again. So to have made the holy water arrows bless the icon would be in keeping with the design they had already put forward, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you ever forge anything like you do in Crag's Cleft either. Like, you don't have to, but you can. Oh, you make the key, right? In Return to the Cathedral. You cast a key for yourself.
Yeah.
You can, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess they set it up in Crag's Cleft and show you that it can be done if you're paying attention. And then they repeat it again in Return to the Cathedral, but the blessing is still new. So I think they could have programmed that in. It probably just didn't make it into the brief or whatever.
Possible. I was just a bit concentrated on all the technical stuff I have here. I'm a bit overwhelmed.
Oh, sorry. I've been working on technical stuff this week, so I'm in the mood.
Yeah, and then the next part I would skip because I don't know what he was referring to. I don't remember it. But the last one is 23730. Maybe Jake, you would have another go on that.
Sure, absolutely. It's heavily implied that the Keeper glyph magic is indeed more powerful than the Trickster. The Trickster is probably just a demon that was more powerful than Stone-Aged humans. He couldn't even manage against them after they crafted hammers and built brick walls. He needed the power of the Eye to turn the raw chaos of the elements against the world. And the Eye didn't even want to help, which is why the Trickster needed the alchemy that is referenced in his books.
Yeah, I think that was because we weren't sure how powerful is the Trickster actually.
Yeah, and I was saying maybe he's not who he says he is.
And maybe Constantine is not really the Trickster. Yeah, that's what we also said. Like maybe he's just like a hoofed guy. But it's I think it's an interesting commentary to add some knowledge to our unknowledged people like me. Yeah, but I think that's an interesting thing to discuss. Like, still, like, how powerful is the Trickster? Is he the Trickster? How powerful are the Keepers? And when they are so powerful, why can't they do more of what they try to prevent? And yeah, there's always some questions about that, I would say. Or what is your opinion on that?
Maybe the Keepers have their own agenda.
They definitely have.
I mean, we never see like a direct fight, do we? Like between, like we definitely don't see a direct fight with anybody with the Trickster, but between like a pagan and a keeper, really. I mean, I know in Thief Deadly Shadows, there's like those special keepers. I can't think of what they are, but they're very
The guys with the boomerangs.
Yes, those guys. Those guys are really scary, and I know that you can confront them, and can interact with other NPCs, but there's really never like a fight that we can assess like sort of the power of a keeper versus the power of a pagan. So I agree that it's interesting. I don't know. I don't know if I'd agree that the glyph magic, I mean the glyph magic is pretty old, but I don't know, is it more powerful than the Trickster? I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure.
I also don't know. It's just an assumption, I would say, but I think Plutonia is a very well-informed Teffer, so I would believe him in that regard, at least give him a point. So Plutonia, thank you again for this really long and well-extracted commentary or comment. And I think now we dive into the best mission that the whole Thief original series provided. And yeah, it's Trace the Courier. And next, since you have been so quiet for reasons, of course, don't you want to tell us what is your impression of the mission?
Well, it has its blunders, of course. But all in all, I think perhaps nobody would say that this is one of their best mission or favorite missions. But I think it's important to diversify. We don't get. I know that different environments, different objectives give you a different experience, but this is so much more different than that would be. That it kind of breaks the. I don't want to say monotony, but I don't know. I like it for that reason. It offers different challenges. It's just different, and I like that fact. However, it does suffer from that we have two. Well, no, not really. But I guess the next one is quite strange as well. For a second there, I thought maybe in the Trail of Blood you also have to follow somebody. You do, but in a different
But you never
way.
see them.
Yeah. But in this one, yeah, you that freedom is taken away to a great deal, and I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you like that fact about it, or is it just super annoying?
I think that Trace the Courier tries to live up to Assassins, but it can't. Because the difference, while Trace the Courier is more um, complex in terms of like the difficulty levels and the pathing, Assassins delivers at the end. Assassins has a mansion raid, but Trace the Courier is almost anticlimactic because you have that moment where the pagan gets shot and dashes into the portal and all that. But like honestly, it's not that crazy, and you don't get that big raid at the end. So it just kind of feels like, you know, it's supposed to be a big oh shit moment, but it's not as big as it might be.
I would totally agree that, as you said, like it tries to ride on the I think well received Assassin's mission, because that mission was amazing because it had like the splitted part. Like first you follow those guys, which was the first time in the game where you do that, and then you come up at Ramirez's place, which is also an interesting building. I think Jake, you said that you like it even more than Beffert's, and
Yeah, absolutely.
and that's, you know, like that's a cool thing of doing it, and you still have some time to explore the city. You know, you don't have to go to Ramirez's place and for, you know, right at the beginning. No, you can explore the city, and you have an interesting enemy there and stuff like that. But here it's just blunt: follow this person, then wait like 2 or 3 minutes until the ladder will be picked up, and then you follow this person again. At the end, there's something interesting happening, but you know, the whole level, you know, always have that pressure the whole time. You cannot explore the city you already have seen, and it's, I don't know, it's lame. I think it's really a lame mission. In my opinion, one of the worst thief missions there are from the original games.
Would agree.
I do wonder if it started with a longer brief and like maybe Trail of Blood was part of the same mission, and then because of constraint they had to split them up. Because it does kind of feel like that, right? Like Trail of Blood feels like the Ramirez part of Assassins, and you have that like crazy reveal with the. I mean, maybe I shouldn't talk about this to the next episode, but you do have that big reveal with the eye guys inside the cave, and that feels pretty freaking surreal. And like, I think that's supposed to be the Ramirez moment, but it doesn't work as a second mission.
Yeah, I agree.
One more thing is that, you know, since it's trying to live up to the assassins, in the assassins, if I'm not mistaken, the route is randomized, is it not?
Yes.
At least,
yes, it
at
is.
least a part of it. Yeah.
There are two. I think there are two different ways. I think Psychosis explained this. Like in the speedrun, you
True,
want
yeah.
them to go the left way, I think, and but there's like a 50-50 chance or something. And yeah,
Whereas here, it's not random at all. But I like the fact that it is in the city that you already visited, because I know that, you know, when I played this for the first time, I do remembering the city, and that's the parts that I find enjoyable. There are some sketchy parts, you know. The restrictions of the time make it so that the alleys are just that, you know, just like a box. There's you know, rarely there's a very, you know, convenient spot to hide in. I think that would make it a little bit less frustrating at times. But there are sections, at least a couple, where you don't exactly follow the person you're supposed to be following, but you take a slight diversion, you know, maybe jump through the canal, through the door. You get a nice spot to wait for the other patrols to run out, or things like that. And those times it made me feel like, you know, I was doing something smart, which is what thief levels usually
Are
accomplish.
supposed to.
Sorry?
I said that's what thief levels are supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
I do think that there's a mistake in that, though. Ambush and Trace the Courier, even though they share a map, they're both missions under circumstances where you can't really slow down and like just chill out and explore, right? They're not. Neither of them is exploring missions.
Yep.
So I think I agree with you that it's cool that you get to revisit the same area, but I think maybe that would have been, if they had leveraged that, and if Ambush had been less of a emergency mission and more of like a just generic, I need rent money, so I'm going to go rob as many people in the city as I can mission, I think maybe that might have made Trace the Courier feel different. That might have made you feel more smart, because you'd be like, oh, I just spent a night staking all of these streets out, not 3 missions ago.
That's actually a great idea. If like Ambush or whatever mission, what played a role before in that city surroundings, like if it would have given you like made you smarter about the environment, and then that you could use it now. Like maybe you've in the first one in Ambush you find some interesting routes, and now you can use this knowledge to solve tricky moments, like maybe mostly it's like standing at a place and you have to get around it because there are guards facing everywhere, and but you're like, oh, I know this roof, or I can never go up there, and then I can jump over this. That would be a cool thing. Then you would feel smart, actually.
For sure. Yeah, we call that in game dev, we call that teach, test, twist. So like you teach the player something and you test their ability to do it. So in this case, that would be making Ambush like a robbery mission where you have to just find your way around the streets and find, like you would not give them a map, right? You teach them the layout and you test their ability to learn that layout. And then the twist would be putting them into Trace the Courier and then throwing a wrench in their plans here and there where they have to take one of those routes or those shortcuts that they learned in the previous mission.
Exactly. But before we go deeper into the what if, let's dive into the story. Where are we? I think that's pretty important, because I think mission 7 was really I think one of the most important missions to the story, because suddenly things get serious and something happens. It's a plot twist, like you think like, hey, you can confront Druid or Norman Druid, and then suddenly he's dead, and now this Mosley character that was before just named in mission 3, she's one of the bigger officers or whatever in the police department, and now she plays a bigger role, and she seems to be like, is she part of the pagans? So Garrett decides to follow her because he feels, he follows her right at the right time, where she by accident wants to give a letter to one of her what do you call it, compliances, and conspirators. So, thank you. And so you follow her, and you want to find out where does that lead. And that's the beginning of the story. Or do you guys want to add something to it?
I think you summed it up pretty well.
Yeah.
Thank you. I prepared. No, actually, I didn't. I've never been worse prepared than this mission, because my opinion, there's nothing to talk about. But it's a podcast. We have to.
Yeah.
Who are we but talking heads?
Yeah. Garrett follows her. She walks around, and at a certain point, she just drops the letter. And you're supposed to pick it up, read it, and put it back in place, so that the one who's supposed to receive it can receive it.
Yeah, and you have to wait. And here I have one question. Like on normal, she's leaving the letter at the marketplace, right? And on is it extreme? You have she puts it like somewhere at a corner. It's a really random place. And I have the feeling that you have to wait even longer on the hardest difficulty. But does she put it somewhere else on the hard difficulty, on the middle difficulty level?
I've been thinking. I did not know until earlier today, I should say, that the drop off points are different. I never caught that in the speedrun videos for some reason. But yeah, I was thinking because there are 3 sections where the 2 routes, how should I say, cross. So where if you look at the paths from expert, and the first time they cross, it's exactly where the easy one drops it off. So I would say my guess is that yes, on hard difficulty there is this, the 3rd spot where she drops it off. But I don't know. Have you ever seen where she drops it off on expert difficulty? Because that's the point where she drops it. For me, always made this mission a little bit enjoyable.
Why? Because I think it's so boring. It's just that corner near I think it's near the stream, and
The thing is that there's a shop there, and if you enter the shop, go to the 2nd floor, there are 2 windows that look directly down on the spot where she drops it off, and I don't know, that just made it,
Okay, yeah, I can
That is
see.
interesting.
I can see that. It's because I didn't know that, so I just you will later see on the video it's just running in the background because that is on the hardest difficulty level. I just like run around like from left to right and wait and wait and wait, And every time I hear a step, like, oh no, he's coming. Oh no, it's a guard. Ah, damn it. But that's cool because I can really relate to the feeling what you just described. Like now you have a
Yeah.
smart hiding spot.
That's really good environmental storytelling.
And I can
But that's
imagine
funny that
Garrett
it's lost.
like creeping behind the window, just waiting.
Yeah. It's lost because that's not a mission critical area, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they
Yeah.
should have left more breadcrumbs to lead the player into there and make it mandatory or something. Although that removes some of the magic, right? Like when the player's hand is held, it's not as satisfying when you make a discovery as when it's all your own and you can own it.
Yeah, agreed.
But so what I have to say is like at that point this mission didn't give you much room for exploration. And so for me and everything was so empty. Like rooms I discovered, there was nothing really special in it, at least what I saw. And so I was like, yeah, I think it's not worth my time to scout around the area, so yeah, I just waited desperately.
There's only 2 or 3, I think, piles that aren't on the belts, like pieces of loot that aren't on the belts, I believe. There's like 2 maybe gold piles, and they're on the ground. I don't think any of them are in the apartments or any in the buildings. So you're kind
I
of
think
not
you're right,
really
yeah.
supposed to explore.
And there is only one readable in the whole mission.
And what is it?
It's the letter.
It's yeah.
Okay. Besides, okay, I thought there was something else like lying around.
No. Just, but yeah, like Jake said, it's quite scarce when it comes to loot. It's not meant for the exploration. I mean, if it was, I think it would make it worse for me because I always felt. Here's the problem I have with this mission. Even though there are parts that I like it, I mean, I like it as a part of the whole thing. I mean, I think it would be worse without it. But the range that you have to keep up is, I guess it has to do with the restrictions of the engine again, but it just always felt so small, right? Whenever I think right at the beginning where you first troll by an archer guard who's patrolling on like a wooden thing. At that point, another guard, and it's a long hallway, and Mosley goes along that way. That's the archer on the right, and then there's another patroller that comes from where Mosley's going, right? So you can't really wait for him to pass by. You kind of have to find a weird hiding spot right at its feet, so that you don't lose that range and you don't automatically lose. And it's not like you would have lost her. At least for me, I always knew how the city. I mean, the city was just because I explored it a lot in the ambush. or maybe that's just my perspective now because I replayed the ambush so many times that I kind of know it a little bit more. But sometimes you're forced into these, well, not as polished engagements with the patrols and the guards, and you're hiding in these weird spots. I think that part could be done a little bit better, or maybe the range, if it was increased, then it would be better. But I guess it also serves as a deterrent for the player to start exploring. I mean, I can imagine that if somebody didn't really grasp, because you have to know there's a lot of kids playing the games, right? If somebody doesn't grasp the concept of what he's supposed to do, he can start exploring, and suddenly he would just lose, and he wouldn't maybe know why. So I guess if you lose the game as soon as she's barely off the screen, then I guess that helps you out a little bit. But maybe for somebody who wants to go through the mission unseen, a little bit more cleanly, it just sometimes makes it impossible. Thank God we have money for stealth potions, so those do help out a little bit.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think it works for none of those, of both. Like I think it's too far. You can let her go too far and lose. And for the, let's say, younger player or first time player or whatever, I think that happens to me when I was young. Like I wasn't really sure what happened now, why I lost at the beginning, but then I recognized, okay, maybe she's gone too far. But for the guy who wants to explore or maybe goes, so the person has to wait and patrol routes and stuff like that. But for that, it's it's too close. You cannot wait too long. So it's, I don't know. I think the mission doesn't work in so many ways. I think they tried, but I think it's, as I said, it's just boring.
I think part of the reason that it is so boring for me too is that you kind of, in most thief missions, you can kind of go at your own pace. We talked about that earlier with exploration.
Yeah.
And in this mission, you're set to going at the pace of that the NPC is walking, and the NPCs are walking so slow, so it's like the mission has kind of a pre-planned pacing, which is kind of what ruins it for me, is that I can't go at my own pace. I have to follow the pacing that the game has already set out. So it's kind of almost anti-Thief in a way, because Thief is all about like player choice and player agency and deciding what you want to do and how you want to approach it. But this mission is like you kind of have to do it the way that it wants you to.
Yeah, I think it breaks with so many things. Thief made so great, and but Seth, what are your thoughts
Yes.
on this?
My mind went blank.
Let me
that's-
jump in.
Yeah, thank you.
There is a good side of the fact that you have to go at the game's pace. I remember whenever you're because a lot of the time you're alone and you're following her, nobody's seeing you, and of course, if another guard sees you, he runs after you, so those cannot see you. But the mostly pace, along with the patrollers that are friendly, the citizens, it always made me feel a little bit, I don't know, in the role when I was looking after Mosley, realizing I have to stop a little bit, and then somebody, maybe this lady walks by, and there's me just leaning against the wall, pretending that I'm just like a normal citizen. I'm not following her. I'm just leaning here, to the point where you almost find yourself whistling.
That's
so
what
yeah,
the lean keys are for. So they're for an immersive experience.
yeah, and they do achieve that. And I just sometimes feel like there's too many, because there are more guards throughout the city in this mission than there are in the ambush. And I know they're all concentrated, in your apartment in that mission, but it feels like, I mean, pretty much all the streets are just patrolled by one guard. The most guarded city.
Yeah, and
Well.
especially in ambush where like the blue coats are looking for you extensively, and and there the streets are almost empty, and here like where they are just on a normal day like routine, there's like 5 guards at the marketplace, crossing everywhere, like no corner, okay, or maybe they are still looking for Garrett, I don't know, but it seems a bit off.
Maybe Garrett lacks a second pair of clothes, because all these other citizens are just walking around. There's no 10 o'clock curfew that I'm breaking. But as soon as they see me, I mean, sure, Garrett probably wears black leather, is hooded. He looks like a hoodlum or something. I don't know. The patrols immediately go after him. But this other guy wore some green pants. He just walked past. I think the guard even said hi.
But you're totally right. Garrett should have just changed his clothes to a civilian guy. So, but on the other hand, then maybe when he wants to hide in the shadows because he wants to follow her, maybe then like a green shirt and white pants would be the best choice.
That's I mean, in Undercover, in Thief Gold, they directly state that Garrett has a novice's uniform, and that's why the guards don't come after you. But they could have easily done the same thing for this mission, right? Garrett could have just like said at the end of the briefing, like, I guess it's time to grab a new pair of clothes or something. Like,
or shouldn't Garrett, he was at the police station and he can grab like 100 tons of loot. Couldn't he just grab a uniform? And
oh, no. That doesn't fit with his 5 candlesticks in his pocket.
Yeah, and maybe he doesn't like the boots.
He only wears dance shoes, don't you know?
Right. Yeah, maybe that would look strange with the blue coat's dress, and then he has like his ballerinas. No, the high heels.
We should do an entire episode on what Garrett's pajamas look like.
That could be a special episode that you guys can do when I'm on vacation or something.
I'd love to do that. I mean, he sleeps during the day, ostensibly.
The fetish age. Yeah, but what you said next, like I think both city missions, or let's say ground floor city missions, I think do the wrong thing. What they do with the city in that moment, like following her across the rooftops and stuff would be really cool, like you do in Assassin's Creed. I like those moments when you follow a person, and you are standing on the roof and you watching the person go, and then you jump across the roofs, and then you're or like in wasn't it in The Godfather 2, where he is following the guy across the roofs? And then at the end he meets him in the at the stairs in the house, and then he kills him.
I couldn't tell you. I only play Thief. But what you said, I just try to envision, and it makes so much sense. Why wouldn't Garrett follow her across the rooftops? I mean, that would be so atmospheric. Just
That'd be a much cooler mission.
And you would feel empowered, like I have this abilities to do that. So you have maybe all your guards on the street level, but I'm above here and I follow you in the shadows and on the roofs and out of sight.
You'd also have to travel faster.
Yeah. I think this following mechanic was at least at that point still, a little bit of a experimental thing. It wasn't as polished as other aspects were, but maybe because of how it went in Thief 2, the fan mission authors never tackled it, or at least I haven't stumbled across a mission that would take a great that would include this following mechanic, because it could be done very, very well, like, especially if if you take all this what we talked about before, about letting the player see the mission first and then has to follow somebody. I always thought that in a fan mission it would be very cool that if the mission just it's a normal one, you have to pay your rent and stuff like that, but then during the mission you have a small follow event, or you use the follow event just to get to the spot where something valuable is hidden. There's this mission, I don't know how to pronounce it correctly. It's a French word, rendezvous. Anyway, it's a mission where it's like Maltazar's tower. Essentially, you're dealing with some wizards and solving some puzzles. But in that mission, you had a ghost child running around.
Yeah.
And it would stop at a certain sink, and in that sink there was something that you needed, and I thought that was so cool, right?
Yeah.
So I think this follow mechanic is underutilized in today's fan missions.
Yeah, because I think most people don't think very highly of this one here. So I think it's a mechanic that where authors say like, no, I'm not adding this, But there is some fan mission where you also have to follow someone, but I cannot recall it. I think it's a woman in a dress you have to follow, but I have no idea what the scenario was and whatnot. But there is something on my mind. But yeah,
surprise, surprise. She's wearing a dress. It's exactly one person. It couldn't be anyone else.
You mean the red dress? Oh, I can't follow.
I think there was. I was
He's
joking.
making fun of your description.
Yes, it was so vague as to be very specific.
That guy, he lives in a house.
Yeah, it was that woman.
Okay,
She
now
was
I
wearing a
get it.
dress.
Okay, now yeah, you're right. But there are not many NPC models with dresses, so
That's very true.
what's the red
there was
one?
A thief. I think there was a thief. I think there was a mission for Thief Gold where you had to follow somebody though, like a fan mission.
I don't know.
I think it's been done a couple times, but not. You know what? Let this be an invitation and a challenge. Somebody make us trace the Courier meets Life of the Party mission, and I'll be your beta tester.
Brethren, if you're listening, do a contest about it.
A mission that includes following. Best use of follow mechanic.
There we go.
Yeah, and then I can see it like then comes Skaki, a Skaki mission, Skaki city mission, and you have to follow someone that is on the streets, and you have to jump all those crazy rooftop stuff.
Well, we promise.
Skaki makes a mission about following somebody. Sorry.
Or maybe we inspire him to do it on the Black Parade. Now they changed the whole story and everything because they're like, yes, of course, if we want to make a good original like Thief game, we have to have a follow mission. Huh? Anyone?
It's guaranteed. It's guaranteed that mission will get on this podcast at this point.
The whole campaign will be on the podcast, so yeah.
This is like an infamous topic.
Do you think Black Parade's gonna have the a follow mission?
No.
I don't think you can ask him. He's too. He can't say anything. He's under NDA.
Does Thief 2X have a follow mission?
Yes, it has actually. Where
the first mission.
The first one? Yes,
yeah.
But you also have to follow the thieves until to their hideout. But that is not very hard because the way until that is just very straight. There is not much to explore, and it's just a little thing after the train. And it's just a part of. I think I even said that in my Let's Play that because the train mission is split. Like first you are at the station, then you are at the train, and then you are at the city or this Sunnyvale or something was the name. And so. And I said, like, it's one mission with 3 different sectors, and the little follow mission is just, just a little thing, and it's okay, it's fine, and it makes sense in the whole story.
That one worked really well.
Yeah,
I really liked the train station mission.
Oh yeah, I think it's one of the best ones. Or like
It's good for world building.
most remarkables, and of course the technical thing with the train, of course, was pretty cool.
Yeah, it feels a lot like BioShock in a weird way.
Okay.
Just the interiors of the train station and
Okay.
like the level design, it feels very similar.
Okay, I can make the connection there, but maybe I haven't played BioShock in 10 years or something.
I mean, so
Nice.
so Thief 2X made the follow mechanic, you know, nice, right?
Yeah,
We're
because
still looking for somebody to make it, you know,
To make it fun.
yeah, a wow, get a wow factor from it,
yeah, but to be honest, in that engine, I don't think it's possible to do it. Follow a stiff figure in a cubed world and with not a lot of detail, and I don't know. But maybe as I said, like if you have like a city mission like from Skaki, and then you add the thing I just said, like jumping over the rooftops and stuff like that. That would be cool. But this is the only scenario I could imagine that it's a bit cool. But on the other hand, then the NPCs are walking so slow, and so you have to. Okay, maybe this would be a cool parkour mission. Where you have to climb around on different objects, and there's so much you have to do under time pressure. That could be actually something, like lock picking doors, and then there's like maybe I don't know some enemy within on an attic or something. I don't know. It's you can add some spices actually. Yes.
I mean,
Get a speed run.
I don't like the following where you're really under constraints where you have to lock pick and get on time. It differs because players play at different skill level. Somebody is gonna find that really hard. I think having it a bit more relaxed, as I imagined your idea, which immediately I thought was very cool. Watching from the top. I mean, I think you could fill that out with more story rather than these time constraints, because I think time constraints are better in different.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, because but if you watch somebody on the streets from the rooftops and he walks around and he every time he encounters somebody or in a couple of places he has a dialogue or does something, that could spice it up and be.
Well, yeah, to slow things even more down.
So the mission is going to be about a town drunk who stops to talk to everyone he knows on the way home.
Oh, but I know in Thief 2014, you also have to follow a drunk guy.
We don't speak of him.
This was actually cool because he was like a Benny character, but he was like getting into verbal fights with neighbors and stuff like that. He was a real pissed drunk guy. And
yeah, that could be fun. Yeah.
So that was actually with your dialogues and stuff. So having a funny character that is fun to follow, but that stiff woman with a ponytail and a ladder bigger than her head. Okay, maybe the pagans are not so good at reading, so she has to use really huge letters, But yeah, this is not fun. Following two thieves in the first game, that was cool. That's a cool scenario,
Mm-hmm.
They also just tried to kill you.
Yeah, that was.
The stakes were a little higher.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're totally right, and because at this point you're like, okay, I want to find out, but the way they are leading me to the conclusion, who are her partners in crime, is not really great. But
no, but and again, the path in the Assassins much smaller than the combined path here. I feel like, and you only play. I think path is much smaller and easier. Go play it on expert. You walk and you walk and you walk, man.
Yeah, I played it on expert. It's just running there, and yeah, it's yeah. But yeah, if you find your little hiding place, that's actually some cool thing.
It has some, yeah. Maybe the when in the beginning I mentioned that there are a couple of places where you go a different route than where the person you followed went. I think that also happened near the end. That I only saw it on expert mode. So worth a try. It's not gonna make it great, but it's gonna give you a little bit of a good feeling about the mission.
So I just had a thought. How about if thinking about the mission and maybe ways to make it better? what if Mosley or whoever you're following knows that you're following them and that it's not a fail state if they find you? So in that perspective, you're more worried about the guards and the other people in the streets versus like the person that you're supposed to follow. So like what if like instead of Mosley not knowing that you're following her, what if like she offers cuz like she offers that truce to Garrett once you get to the next mission, spoilers. And what if he offers that truce to you in this mission? That way you're not so worried about like it's like, "Oh, follow me, Garrett. Like I need to give you this letter." And that way you're not worried about the guards and you're worried about the person you're tailing. You just have to tail this person, stay close, and just like avoid guards. That's just an idea I just had.
You have to come up with a really good reason for them to follow instead of just handing them the letter
Yeah,
at the
that's
moment
true.
they're telling them.
That's true. I got to show you something. I got to show you the mod. You know, like I don't know.
There you
Just-
go.
Or
I'm
maybe
sure there's
she
ways to
has
do it.
to grab a letter, so she has to go to the place, and she has to take it with her. But she says like, "Hey, take a
I
quick
can't
look
be
at
seen
it."
with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That would make sense because they can't be seen together. Like, what if they have to pick up, like you said, Seth? What if they have to pick up the letter in the graveyard or where the entrance to the maw is? And
Oh,
then
graveyard. That's original.
so, and then it goes wrong there. I'm just trying to think of ways to maybe ease the frustration because you do have quite a bit of room to follow her, but I think that my frustration with the mission is the combination of you have these guards, and next you were talking about this earlier at the very beginning. You have that guard that's coming towards Garrett, and you have the guard that's on that kind of wooden walkway that's patrolling, and like you're worried about them, but you're also worried about Mosley. So I was just thinking ways to make the mission a little bit less maybe tedious and frustrating. So just focusing on the guards and the pickpocketing if you're an expert, and not having to worry about Mosley and her turning around and getting mad at you.
But there are a couple of when you said that, what if she knows that you're following her? Immediately, I had a mission in front of me where, you're supposed to follow somebody, and thing is they're leading you into a trap. Imagine Mosley just at some point just turning slowly around and starting to talk to you. I mean, the shock
Oh
factor.
yeah.
I mean that
That
could
would be solid.
that's why they have to make, somebody has to make a great follow mission. There's definitely something that can be, because it's been underutilized. There's a lot of
Oh, I know someone who has a not used city map on his PC. Let's call him Bex. And maybe there something like that would be really cool.
if Bex just
Wink, wink.
if Bex just does what he has and just releases the mission, it's going to be an achievement enough. If we add on top, I mean, let's say that mission that Bex is working on just needs to be finished, and then maybe a smaller mission can tackle something like that.
Or you can
Hopefully-
reuse the map, it's common among thieves, so
I mean, definitely nobody would. I don't think somebody would complain. We're complaining here where you're playing it three maps after, and the original missions are fairly basic. Did you guys, by any chance, play For a Better Tomorrow from DRK?
of course.
I haven't finished it, but I have played it.
But give
Amazing
me a
mission.
little idea of what it was.
But what I'm trying to, what my point is that mission, and there's also Green Bay 3, I think.
Okay.
But thing is that Green Bay was done. Maybe I'm wrong, but Green Bay was done before For a Better Tomorrow. But essentially, it's the same. It's the same city reused by the same author. Not in the series. It's just separate maps. And both of them are, I enjoy a lot. But that happens sometimes, that people do reuse maps, and a lot of times I'd say I think that goes over people's heads. It's you just turn it around a little bit, start a different direction. Because even in this Thief, in the ambush and Trace the Courier, sometimes even after playing both missions like 10 times, I'm not always sure, I'd say, okay, yeah, I'm exactly here on the map, It involves 10 seconds of thinking, okay, this section is a little bit weird. Okay, I remember that. Now I know where I am. So things can be reused and still feel
like Keeper of the Prophecies. I think Keeper of the Prophecies has 4 maps or something, but they are used in a clever way. Sometimes things are changed in the setting, like with the winter and the season, or maybe another area suddenly is important. And you can do that in a good way. So you just have to add some interesting thing about it. But this here is just the same city again, empty and nothing changed.
It's fairly empty, yeah.
So,
But you do have that lovely texture pack.
yeah, at least to give it some something. I added something to the mission that makes it interesting.
I was looking over Clatremus's run of this mission a few days back, and he used a different texture pack too, and it just felt, a little bit more detailed. Whereas when I played it, I used the
was it
original.
the Necro Age or what it's named?
I think he uses Necro Age. Yeah. It does make it dark and
yeah, it looks a lot of the texture pack makes missions a lot like DRK missions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have done that. Next time I'm playing the original. Actually, for the sake of the podcast, I'll play it in the original version. But if I play it for myself later on, I'm definitely turning Necro back on.
Yeah, I think it looks cool in most cases, but sometimes I don't know if it's. I would love in Fables of the Penitent Thief. I think that would make a great job.
Use the Necro back there.
Yeah, that would be cool. Would add some serious stuff. But guys, do you think because we had a lot of comments from the community, which is amazing. I was a bit overwhelmed by how much you guys added on our Discord and on the YouTube channel. So maybe we should start reading them out because some of them are pretty long and have a lot of ideas. So maybe they will add something to this discussion.
Let's go for
do it.
So I think we start with the almost best Alex I know. It's Stealth Docs. We had him on the show. He has a great YouTube channel about stealth games. And he made a comment, and the way he puts it, I have to, it has to be read by someone with a native tongue. So maybe, Seth, would you go on with the Stealth Docs comment?
Sure. Thief 2 is a story in 2 parts. The first part focuses on the city, Truart's corruption, and the rise of the Mechanist Order, and concludes with Truart's death. The second part focuses on the growing threat posed by the Mechanists and why they need to be stopped. In many respects, tracing the Courier is like an opening mission. It feels very rudimentary and basic, but to me this is appropriate. Garrett had his own agenda for Truart, which is derailed at the end of the previous mission, Blackmail. His efforts at the Mechanist Seminary, First City Bank and Trust, and Truart's mission, all wasted. His only lead is a keyring found at the scene of Truart's murder, but essentially he's back to square one and has to open a new line of inquiry. Who killed Truart and why? I liked that about this mission, the detective element. I enjoyed sneaking through the city, picking pockets, and waiting for my chance to read Moses' letter to her conspirators. While there isn't a mansion to rob at the end of the trail, like in Assassins, tracing the Courier does something more interesting on a narrative level by making the players take a breath after the intense curveball thrown in the previous mission. We wonder who got Truart before we could end the mystery, and, at least in my opinion, holds this mission and its sister mission, Trail of Blood, together nicely.
And he has a point, I would say. If you just take the mission as a single mission, then I think a lot of our criticism is right. But if you put it into everything that happened before, and I think that is something you really have to consider. Now you could come down a bit. It takes a lot of stress out of you, and you're still curious. And the detective element he just described, I think he has a really good point, as always. Watch his videos.
I agree. He
So-
puts it well.
So yeah, if you look at it that way, it's just like a, it just transports you over, because at the end of this mission, of course, there's again some real mystery. Like, okay, what's happening now? Now we have to follow a trail of blood, and it leads to the pagans. And I've never been to a pagan area in that way, so then it gets exciting again. So I think Stealth Dogs has a good point. Or what do you guys think?
I agree from a like a story standpoint that the mission is very strong because it does give you that break. And like you said, that is very true. The story is broken up into two pieces. True, it's kind of the antagonist of the first half, and then Karras's plan becomes more clear, and then he becomes the main antagonist. But to me, from like gameplay standpoint, you still need like some sort of climax, like some sort of payoff. Like we talked about Assassins, like you have that sort of climax of the mission where it gets more and more exciting. But I can't remember, somebody said it earlier, but it's kind of anticlimactic or disappointing because the mission ends and then you just it's done. You know what I mean? Like there's no big moment, like no big payoff. So I agree with him in the fact that it is like very interesting from a story and a thematic standpoint. But I still think from a gameplay standpoint, you need like something else in the mission to make it more exciting. Just my thoughts.
Yeah,
I agree with.
yeah, go on. Sorry.
That's okay. I agree with the intent of what's being said here, which is that you need a breather between Truart being murdered and Trail of Blood because it's just such a weird and surreal mission. But I disagree that this is the right way to tackle it because, in theory, following someone is pretty easy and doesn't require that much mental effort on paper. But in practice, it is irritating in this engine, and it does require either that you understand the limitations of the AI and you're skirting them, which means you're taken out of the game, or you have to concentrate on following someone, which I don't think is like the most relaxing narrative breath you can take. I think that an open mission would have been better because you could set your own pace, but the mission is really setting the pace for you.
Have a very good point, I would say. You both said that the gameplay is like, yeah, the story is good, but the gameplay is not adding to this.
I
Yep.
feel
Ludonarrative dissonance.
Yes, exactly. That's the word I was looking for. Thanks.
I disagree here maybe with Alex and Seth a little bit because I couldn't say that the gameplay here is amazing in the Trace the Courier, but more than the lack of gameplay, I felt the lack of story in that mission specifically. Because imagine like any other mission. Imagine we go into the police station and you hear that conversation. You hear that conversation. You're going into the vault. There's a lot of things happening. Whereas in this one, it was nothing but gameplay. There's the city feels very. I mean, yes, it's night and supposedly everybody's sleeping, but there's just not a lot happening in the. I think if we had more story elements, maybe because when you're going into ambush, immediately you walk into two women talking, and it creates a feeling that place is alive. Here, there's just people walking around. There is one conversation I stumble across, and it's the two guards
Yeah.
talking about boots.
Oh,
That's
I thought
amazing
it was going to be
and
the
alive.
woman talking to the guard at the bridge and saying like, "Don't you need a woman to keep you warm?"
But that's in ambush, right?
Yeah, I would also think
I
that. Yeah.
transpose them. See, there we are. I'm confusing.
And
Next,
that's why this one was so lacking. If I had to follow, Mosley, which is, except for the couple of stressful situations, pretty much a boring task. If those parts were filled with story elements, with things to look at, that would make the mission great, and I think it would support Stealth Doc's theory about two parts even more, right? You would start to, you know, absorb a little bit more in this, beginning of the second part of the story, and then
I agree that I think the start is pretty strong. Like, when it's introduced with a cutscene and then you feel like, okay, now we have to follow her. But then it's pretty boring. At the end, of course, when suddenly the mechanists are involved, then it gets interesting again. But everything in between is like, just, as you said, just simple gameplay and not even that you can choose on your own pace. No, you just have to do what the game tells you to do. You cannot move very far. You cannot go where you want to. There's this constant pressure that's not really fun. And but
Exactly.
but from a storytelling thing, when you see the curve, like, where it gets exciting, I think at this point, that's a good point he has. But yeah, the gameplay still is really lacking.
100% agree with everything you said.
Thanks. That's good. You may
Welcome.
stay. Anything you want to add?
let's move to
The
the next
texture
one.
pack is making me cry.
Why?
Just that wooden wall you're looking at there just doesn't line up with any of the other textures nearby.
Yeah, that's the worst part of the mission, that they didn't prepare it for texture packs 15 years later.
Yeah, they should have thought about that.
Yeah, I'm pretty, yeah. Ugh. So there was another comment by my good streaming friend Zulu1. He is he's amazing. He's from the north of Germany, and he always helps me in missions. Like, hey, try this. Oh yeah, thanks. Hey, I was stuck, but hey. So Zulu1. He said, so I read it with my German accent, from a gameplay engine perspective, it's not my favorite mission. No, and I'm trying to explain why. Most time I play without saving loading, because this is how I can immerse into the Thief world the most. My playstyle is trying to ghost until it fails, and then using tools. No casualties and as few knockouts as possible. In 95% of missions this works well, and, in my opinion, this is what Thief was created for. But this is really hard if there is a critical objective forcing you not to be seen. When I'm picking up the original mission's assassins and tracing the Courier, most of the time it's long ago since I played them before, so I don't perfectly remember the spots to hide. Or bugs occur, and, as often in the Dark Engine, you get seen without any reason. For me, that means that I have to restart a mission for a whole campaign. Yes, this is painful, feel free to criticize, but that's how I like to play. From a storytelling perspective, the mission is brilliant. As Stealth Docs already mentioned, until that point in the plot, the whole tension is built around Truart and blackmailing him, and his sudden death leaves you with nothing. The last hope Garrett has to following mostly and see who she's conspiring with. And when she actually drops the letter, you ask yourself, who will it to be picked up? Only the end with more questions than answers. That is a pagan collecting it. In the last segment of the mission, because of the ambushing mechanists, you are losing track of the Courier, but you are sure he has to be cornered inside of the graveyard. Confident of your victory, you step into that last double door to find that mystical portal and only to be transferred to another more unsettling place. This is one of the missions you wish you could play it for the first time again just to re-experience the excellent narration. So that's his first part. This is just his opinion on the mission. So what do we think about that?
Well, I like his play style. As soon as
I
Jake
knew it.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
This not saving, I think that's how games should be played, even if I don't play them like that. But I mean, obviously it's his fault in missions like this, because he's just setting himself up for restarting the whole campaign. Oh God, man! Unless I was challenging myself to do some Iron Man thing, I wouldn't go for that. But I can see how that would break your immersion in a big way. And yeah, that is a problem. But I think we have to we have to accept a few missions that will not follow that baseline set by the majority of missions where you do have your freedom, you know. So if we were to avoid this, I think we would lose. But you know, like we said before, this mission could have been executed better. But do you remember, Alex, when we talked, and I think it was Endless Rain, we talked about how do patrols work and when do they stop? You know what I mean? Because I think we've came to a conclusion. I think in Endless Rain that was quite obvious that as soon as a certain patrol is far away from you, it doesn't happen anymore. It's just stationary until you come close to it. You know, because of the restrictions. And I feel like maybe the following mission. I mean, I'd love to have Professor Psychosis here to tell us a little bit more. But I think follow missions are a little bit harder on, or are more constrained by the current game engine, and you know, pose a bigger challenge for the creator. So perhaps these missions were, you know, like I said before, maybe a little bit experimental, maybe a little bit ahead of time. Or perhaps just not enough time was put into them. But either way, I think they should be improved a little bit. But I think don't think that would solve Zulu's issue.
But he came up with what would make the mission better also. So, as I said, it was just the first part of his comment. But I agree with what you just said. But what he said, like, what could make this mission better? So first, we have to look at the fact that it's a recycled map. It was already used in Mission 4 Ambush. When we look at fan mission campaigns, there are often recycled maps too, but what gives them a flavor is when there's partially something new to discover, like a completely new area. Could be the graveyard, although it's a bit small and the sequence of approximately 2 to 4 minutes. An example of good recycling could be the City Cathedral mission from Keeper of the Prophecies. Most of the level mesh was completely reused, but it's a different season, where at first a river was frozen, later there was not. It is not too hard and too time-consuming to achieve this effect by simply changing some textures which already are in the game files. The question is, would that fit the Thief timeline? But if I remember it correctly, it is never mentioned how much time is passing between the missions. So after Truard's death and Garrett figuring out that he has to carefully watch mostly contacting her co-conspirators, it could be weeks, even months, which would not make that other season thing not completely impossible. And to add one thing, what Daniel Tron said, he just made the snow cutscene at the end of Thief 2 or 1, Thief 1 with snow, because snow just looks cool. So here they would have even have an excuse to make it snowy. So yeah, I think like simple changes would already make the city more interesting, you know. Like imagine like you have to, she will pass a bridge. And on that bridge are so many guards. It's the only way for you. So, but you cannot pass that because there are too many guards. So you have to maybe go over the ice or something like that, you know? And find another way through the canal.
It's a very T2X solution. T2X gave you ice arrows.
Oh, yeah, or something like, yeah, okay. But, you know, that would imply to add another mechanic, you know, to the arrows, you know, which they needed to program. But you know, like,
yeah.
Like we don't have to go too far into it. I mean, the seasons thing would definitely help to refresh the mission. And you don't really need a season. There are other things where you can just make the city feel different, right? Maybe it's a festival going on. You know, like Morbid Curiosity does it.
I just thought of that, like
construction.
And then, like, you know, just imagine there's like a big parade or something, or a feast or something, and so everybody is allowed to see you except mostly because she knows who you are. So you have to, you know, hide behind like all those different stands that there are there, and that could also add something interesting. And you know, and next to you there's a guy, you know, like throwing knives at another person, you know, like a magician or something like that. That would add some interesting thing.
The getting lost in the crowd thing, huh?
Yeah, right. Okay, of course, because of these limitations, it wouldn't work. But you know, add some interesting things to watch along the way, like a magician that I don't know, it's anything, but there could have been more ideas, but I think it was not the problem that they didn't have the creativity for that. I think that this mission was just a victim to the time.
Yeah, the
Yep.
engine.
Yeah, like they had to reuse. I mean, obviously we know that they reuse another map in the game, but yeah, like having to reuse ambush. I agree with, and I just want to say to the point, like Zulu and I play very similarly, as we've talked about. Um, I also play that way. Like I don't play starting over the whole campaign, but I only save after the mission is over. So I don't make a save during the mission. I just feel like it adds more tension to gameplay, but I don't want to get too off in the weeds here. But yeah, I mean, I agree. If you have something like anything, like snow, like you guys mentioned, or there should be more shops that are open, right? Because ambush, it makes sense that everything's closed and everything, because Garrett's like a fugitive and they're looking for him. But like, what if there was like some shops that were open and that you could steal from, and other things like that, or like you guys are saying, like a festival or a party or something like that, and you know, unfortunately, engine limitations, obviously, with how many NPCs you can have and what they can do and things of that nature, but just something that makes you feel like the city has changed since you were last there, because it feels basically just copy and pasted from ambush. So just something that makes you feel like that more immersed, that time has passed, that things have happened, that things have changed or things are changing. Maybe more mechanist things around, because the mechanists are gaining power since ambush. So maybe like there's mechanists walking around, or
Yeah, but I think that maybe would have given or taken the chance that suddenly the mechanists are ambushing the pagan. I think that is actually a cool thing, that there are no mechanists around until that point. But still, you still would have other possibilities to add something interesting. Yeah.
yeah, tease or something. Maybe you see some like mechanist banners or like mechanist books or something like that, or just something that shows you like, hey, like they're gaining power like in the city. Their influence is spreading. Maybe not have like a bunch of mechanist NPCs and have fights or anything like that, but just maybe something little. Maybe a camera somewhere, or even if it's like shut off, or just something that makes you feel like that things are changing in the city.
But
So
they
that
knew that 20 years later, Psychosis will come with a mission and do this transition atmosphere in a great way. So it's fine. No, but I'm totally with you. That would have been something, and that's what I said. Like, or what I mean. Like, Psychosis did it for the last anniversary contest. Like, where you can see the cool transition from Hemorrhoids to Mechanists. Like Hemorrhoid windows are taken out of the walls, and now Mechanist windows are set in, and yeah, you don't see a lot of the Mechanists as you it would have been a possibility to add something interesting to this, some tension.
Have you guys played the game Project IGI, I'm Going In?
No.
I have not.
It came out around the same time as Thief, and it's a stealth game that doesn't have a save system. You have to play through the whole mission without saving, and if you fail, you start right back at the beginning.
I can imagine why nobody knows it.
It's having the option to save is very important, I think, because having the option means if you don't like using it, you don't have to. But if you get stuck and you realize, like, oh crap, I'm at this really frustrating part of the mission, you can break your own rule. But if it's not implemented, you just can't. I would recommend, like, if you're a no save hardliner, give IGI a shot, and you will see why it's better to have the option and choose not to use it than it is to just wholesale ban it.
Is it still available somewhere on GOG or something?
I wish. It's very, very hard to find. I think it might be on My Abandonware. And I think there might be one person out there who hosts it on their website with like a fix for Windows 10. But it is hard to find, I will say that.
Maybe you can find some, and we can enlighten in the comments or something like that.
Yeah,
It's
that
also
would be
an
great.
Eidos game. I've seen. It's also published by Eidos, like Thief, in the same year too.
Yep.
In America, at least, year 2000.
Oh, really? I never heard
Yep.
of it. Maybe
Yeah,
when I see the cover, then I'm like, oh, okay.
It's a shooter. It's not like a stealther in the same way that that Thief is a stealther, but it does leverage stealth as a mechanic. And I think the tagline for the game was "Think your way in, shoot your way out," so you can kind of get a sense for what the gameplay is. The sequel to it is on GOG and works on Windows 10, I believe, but it's not quite the same as the first one.
Yeah, I could think, like, as you said, I think it wouldn't appeal to many players, like if it's forced, you know. You always should have the option.
For sure.
But what?
I enjoy the in World of Warcraft. The fans made a mod where you have an add-on, an option, and it shows whenever you fail that. But essentially, it's an Iron Man mod. Okay, Diablo has that. Diablo has I don't know what the name is of the difficulty, but it's a difficulty where if you die, you lose. Which in a fighter game, it feels similar to saving in Thief, right? It would be nice to have a difficulty option that does not allow saving.
Yeah, but
Yeah, like the Iron Man difficulty.
But I think back in the days, they didn't even think of those things, you know? Like, they were having their difficulty levels, they were having the save feature, and that's it. No. And I think everything else you can make on your own, you know? There's no supreme ghosting mode they intended, but you can play it as that. So you can take away your options if you want to, but it's good when they are given by the creators, so.
All right.
But
Should we move on?
For another comment by Blue Jay, also on YouTube. For me, the best Thief missions are the ones which give you a lot of rooms, locks, safes, and keys to play around with. That's why I'm not a fan of missions like Trace the Courier, Ambush, or Trail of Blood. They are purely for the sake of exposition, and so they funnel you through the story they want to tell and sacrifice a lot of interactivity. This city map in particular is terrible, even though shipping and receiving and FMs like Seven Sisters prove that wide open city maps can have a lot of life to them. Assassins implemented the tailing aspect really well because you look forward to finding out who messed with you, and you finally come to the mansion for you to play around in. Trace the Courier dedicates an entire mission to that mechanic, and that is a tremendous waste of a mission.
Agree with that. I think, I mean, it's had sadly Assassins came before this mission, but I think it's just perfect. It has some follow mechanic. It's that part is enough. Nobody's like, oh, I wish I could go off a few blocks more. And then it has this other section. But dedicating a whole thing to one mechanic, it does feel like a waste. However, this probably won't, correlate as I wanted to, but when you have, like techno music and you have these DJs that will roll at parties, and a friend of mine said a year back, he said that the real genius is to create the monotone, the less awesome sections in between, just so that you have the bad with the good, right? Because that makes the other sections much better. But I know that it doesn't really apply here, but maybe it's felt a little bit when you come back again into the city and it's like, oh, awesome. But yeah, I agree. Dedicating a whole mission to one mechanic, it's a bit off.
Yeah, and I think it's totally right that it's just, here they want to tell you something and this mission is there to serve. Maybe that's the other problem again, the time, and that they build the places first and then they put the mission into it. And yeah, maybe they were running out of an idea, or maybe they had an amazing idea, but they couldn't build the level for it in time. So maybe. Anything, Seth, Jake, you want to add?
That's all I got.
No, I like the point that he made about interactivity. That's kind of what I was trying to get at earlier. Like, you're very limited in what you can what you can do, like what you can interact with, and I just thought that was a really good point. So thank you.
I agree, yeah. So, a positive comment. It's very short. I think the mission is great. Tailing missions are usually shit, but with Thief 2's lighting and atmosphere, you feel like a noir detective. And from what I remember, it's mercifully short, also quick save helps. So it is sent comparable to Ubisoft horrendous Rockstar tailing missions by Oklosh Brockler. I
think he's referencing Grand Theft Auto and Assassin's Creed, respectively, just to give context to his comment. When he says Rockstar and Ubisoft.
With Ubisoft, I think I got that, but yeah, Rockstar, GTA, where do you tail people?
Oh, most of the GTA games, at least the new ones. I don't know about like the Grand Theft Auto 3.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's tailing
but
missions.
Yeah, GTA 4 and 5 have usually a couple missions where you have to follow somebody in a car and you can't get too close to them or they'll get spooked and things like that. So yeah, Rockstar's pretty big on the tailing missions. At least there's usually at least one or two in every game.
But I think you can't compare this, because it's just basically a mechanic based on a little screen thing that has to fill. And so I think it's not comparable. But the Ubisoft, because I said Assassin's Creed earlier, but it's of course a personal preference, but I actually like the tailing missions in Assassin's Creed. When you are on the roofs, when you're not, then it's like meh. But when you are on the roofs and you feel a bit, like I'm above you, you can see me. I like that.
It's so fun to move around in Assassin's Creed, like the movement system, the climbing, that you can climb anything, and that's I think what makes it a little bit more bearable in something like Assassin's Creed versus something like Grand Theft Auto, where you're just kind of stuck in a car and you just have to like drive really slowly in a car and like follow somebody. So I think that's what kind of redeems Assassin's Creed, and what could have redeemed this mission, because we mentioned earlier, you guys mentioned about climbing on the rooftops, because Thief has great movement with rope arrows and mantling and stuff like that. If you could like mantle up on the roof and get down while you're following Mosley, I think it would make it a lot better.
Yeah,
I think it works better in Thief than in Assassin's Creed, though, because in Thief, if you get seen, you're caught. In Assassin's Creed, if you're climbing, nobody seems to notice the weird as hell guy climbing the side of the building.
He's probably wearing the green pants, casual.
And what I think is very unbelievable in Assassin's Creed, that he doesn't have the climbing gloves.
Yeah, and he's missing a finger.
Yeah. So, or a climbing ring or something like that. So yeah, I don't agree with the comment, but I thought it's nice to see that there are people. We also have two others, but they are actually way shorter. That I have a positive thought on this. So maybe we can add another one by Adrian J. I don't think that the mission is as bad as it seems. Or maybe, what next? You can read it. I don't have to read all the time. That Adrian J with the cat picture. Do you have
all right.
Do you have the file
Sure.
open? Yeah.
I do. Adrian J writes, I don't think that the mission is as bad as it seems at first, but is more of a connoisseur thing, and it has indeed not the same appeal as First City Bank and Trust or Life of the Party, obviously. But I love every mission that explores the city life a bit, and the streets are actually populated in contrast to Assassins, for example. As I'll Steve to guide to Strange and Unusual features some interesting secrets. 1. Once the pagan has disappeared into the portal, you have all the time you want to explore the level. And 2, if you manage to interfere the door of the apartment from where the mechanists emerge, otherwise it cannot be opened, you can enter the place and will find a corpse on the upper floor. I had great fun exploring it for myself. I think the level could be improved by expanding on the cemetery, maybe some little lore tidbit on the restless Hammerite apparitions patrolling the grounds, as both pagan and mechanist influences are very close. Such a sinful neighborhood is bound to upset some formerly devout spirits.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He has a point, yeah, because I always forget that you can explore the city after the pagan disappeared. So this criticism is actually gone.
I don't agree with that it's completely gone. It's at that point you have, or you know that there are mechanists, surrounding this thing. The guy is gonna bleed out. If you're playing for at least a bit of immersion, then you have to follow the guy. You're going in. You're not like, okay. I mean,
So-
I don't think
Time
I
is
can
relative
convince
on the other
myself
side
that
of
it's
this
not.
portal.
Sorry.
Time is relative on the other side of the portal. I have all the time in the world to explore on this side.
Yeah. So I don't completely agree that you could explore, and even if you have the time to explore, I mean it's fun once you go back through the missions. I think this is one where you can find things where you would never before. Whenever you would follow the story, you would never stop and look at things. Even if you did diverge from the path a little bit, you would find empty places. So there's not a big incentive, but I've been on the top floor of the mechanist place, and there's also a section of the cemetery which you can't go into unless you climb over and stuff like that.
Yeah, on the walls, right?
Yeah, there's nothing much interesting inside, but it's it's like that guy that went to the top of the mechanist building in Life of the Party
But
for the first time, and it's just exploring, and
But-
that's fun.
But what do you think of the dead body in the building where the mechanists come from?
I feel like that's something they planned to add a readable or narrative, and probably just never got around to it.
Yeah, it also it seems like, okay, there is something, but doesn't add anything. So what could it be? Or maybe it's just a simple, to make it up, to make your own thoughts about it, like what could have happened here. But yeah, it's not very made well in a good way.
I mean, it's not something that a normal player would find. You would have to be a real taffer to get in there. But once you find stuff like that, especially when you get into a place where you're not supposed to be as a player and you find something there, it just feels magical, right? So I do appreciate that, but
to
the
know,
guess why
they
it's
put
there.
this at the end, but the whole mission, there's nothing really to explore, nothing interesting. Maybe they should have done that like at another place, to at least give you some interesting thing to see.
However, I do agree with his proposed improvements. Just expanding on the story, have a little bit more there than just empty streets and patrol guards.
Yeah, or at the cemetery, like this could, if the cemetery would have been a cool final place, then at least you would have, have this cool, like a bit like Ramirez's place, like, but even that is boring. So there's another comment by Alex Alex Locanin. I like this one. I don't mind this mission at all. But I do mind the dark medieval style of the city in Thief. The Dark Project looked phenomenal. This city in Thief 2 looked uninspired in comparison. Bam. That's all he said. I don't know.
I think he has a point here. I think in the Assassins one, there's a lot more of sections of different heights, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's true. More variation.
Yeah.
And it looks more
this feels
believable.
flat. Yeah. This is just all buildings of the same height, There are some parts that, there are interesting. But if at all they show they show their potential in the ambush mission, not as much here.
Yeah, and of course the ambush mission has the thing like you visit Garrett's apartment for the first time. This is something I remembered playing back in the days. Like this was a real goal, you know, like, hey, I come to Garrett's apartment finally, you know. Of course I want to know how it looks and where it is, where he's living. And this is a cool thing.
And you open up the closet and he's like Batman. He just has like a secret stash of gadgets.
Yeah, of course.
Just awesome. So cool.
Yeah. And you know, the tension around that building is really interesting. You know, like, hey, they are looking for me at my place. I'm going back to the place where they're looking for me. So, you know,
it's a suicide mission.
Yeah, something like that. And this has a lot of tension. So
going into your own closet saying, wow, look at all the stuff I have here. I need to stop drinking.
My stash looks almost bearable from up here. Yeah. So short comments, short answers. But guys, Jake, Seth, you're so quiet.
You want to read do you want to read Forgotten Roots' comment? He's
sure.
Wrote a more.
Yeah, and especially the first sentences are very, very important.
All right, so Forgotten Root says, "Greetings. First of all, I would like to thank you guys for your excellent insights and discussions in the previous episodes. You're welcome. Tracing the Courier is certainly one of the weakest levels in both games. Does it have redeeming qualities? The concept of stalking the target already known from my favorite Assassins is poorly executed here, but at least there's a plot twist with the pagan at the end, and the storyline is relatively interesting. Supernatural elements at the cemetery are a welcome addition to the otherwise boring and uneventful design of the city. I don't mind the idea of reusing previous level designs, but there aren't many differences between Ambush and Tracing the Courier, which is what we mentioned earlier. Tracing the Courier would have been a better mission if Garrett was forced to complete an additional objective before or after reaching the cemetery. For example, you don't want to jump into the strange portal without proper equipment and preparation, go to X and get Y. This would allow the player to explore the city and stock up on loot and equipment. I would love to see more buildings to enter. It wouldn't have to be anything complex, just some simple apartments or shops to break into. A few additional readables depicting daily life in the city would be another cool bonus."
Yeah, but I mean that's payoff, right? That's having a mission at the end of the mission, as Assassins had.
Yeah, but I totally agree, because it would have made sense. Like, hey, I don't jump into this portal, you know, or maybe you just discover it, and then you go to the shops, you know, whatever, because your apartment is like, you know, has like some yellow tape on it on the doors, so you can't go there. So yeah, maybe you have to prepare.
I think that the pagan getting wounded and having a trail of blood to follow is kind of shoehorned, because you could just as easily follow the pagan in the next mission without having to actively follow them, right? Like,
because I would say Garrett would find a village within the forest without a blood trail.
Yeah. So like, a trail of blood is a really cool name for a mission, but I don't know if it's like. I think that the forcing the player to kind of feel like they're in a rush to find this person is kind of like shoehorned in, and not a great way to move the plot forward, because that's not everybody knows that the mission isn't going to arbitrarily end because they died off screen somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So it just doesn't make sense to have that be the driving plot element when it could just as easily be as you describe, and you know, you find some equipment first before you go through, and like, Garrett's not stupid. He could drop a rock through the portal and see if he can feel it on the other side with his foot.
Or through a scouting orb. What about a scouting orb?
Yeah, what about a scouting orb?
Ooh, that would actually be cool.
Is there a scouting orb in the mission?
Goes. Yeah, you can use one. Yeah, I use one all the time to just to wait while I'm in the shop, when I'm, you know, playing on expert where the letter drops we talked about earlier. You can wait in that little shop, and I drop a scouting orb and like look across from there.
What if Garrett sees the portal and he's like, nope, I remember what happened last time I went through one of these, and he just drops each of the 4 elementals on it to close it.
Yeah, and then he's like, you know what? F this whole thing, I'm going home.
Thief 2's over.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, we should have made the game, or maybe we should make a patch. You know, Seth, you're working in the games industry. You know, maybe you can grab some men, you know, after work, and then You know,
Let's do a Kickstarter and use the podcast as a platform to raise funds for Thief 5.
now, what you mean, Thief 4?
Before, yeah.
Yeah, Thief 4. Thief 4.
What? This guy, you next time bring your brain, buddy.
And the cease and desist letter from Square Enix.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Or we kind of, make comments in that game, like on the Thief 2014 thing, you shoot a rope arrow up somewhere, and then Garrett says like something like, imagine there would only be certain spots where I could do this, or some X-ray vision would really be stupid or really helpful, but I'm a pro, something like that.
I wish my rope arrows would just stick in any wood.
Yeah. I wonder.
We'll hire Reven Stussel to do the voice.
Yeah, Reven Stussel. And I would like the art from Spaniel Fron. And of course, Jim Belmark would also be good.
Barry Trocious can be the voice of the antagonist.
Oh yeah, and Heike Klewinski designed some levels.
Love it. This is our dream team.
Yeah, by hooking gas, no, as the company. Hooking gas. Ooh, and we. Oh,
Cooking Lass. Cooking Lass Studios.
Yeah, and we create one of the missions is like the most shitty.
Hey.
All right.
Shots
Yeah,
fired.
Alec, you want to go and read the last comment?
You mean the Shane Mullen?
Yep.
Yeah. Greetings, by the way. He's also pretty often watching the stream. Nice guy. I loved racing for the first time playing it all those years ago. It's pretty average these days. I like the boots conversation. Or you don't want to stuff your little poor toesies. Taff off. Yeah.
I was hoping you'd
you don't want to stuff your poor little toesies. Taff off.
By the way,
That's what I was hoping
Seth
for.
is amazing with the voices.
All right.
I think if this is the only highlight, a conversation about boots, and obviously it is, meh. I think this positive comment doesn't do pretty well for the mission,
I mean, there are some highlights, right? There's it starts off great, right? Then you have the letter that's being dropped off. There's this funny conversation, and then the ambush and the cemetery at the end, which is not a lot of highlights, but there are some. The rest is a little bit of a waiting game.
I think he does point out something that we haven't really talked about much, though, and it's that the first time you play the mission, you probably don't notice that it's not a great mission. But after you've played, through the campaign twice, it's one that you kind of don't want to replay. It doesn't have any replay value because it's a linear mission, right? And we've also had the benefit of playing many, many very good fan missions that were able to take advantage of increased technical limitations after the release of the game, right? So, we're playing looking back, but if you were still looking forward at the time you played this mission, it might not seem quite so slow, right?
Yeah. I think the replayability is a key word here, and I think that's what's influencing the amount of criticism coming forth.
I'm sure the first time I played this mission, I was like, trailing mission, and then I just played through it and forgot about it.
I'm 100% positive that the first time I played this mission, I liked it more than the Trail of Blood. I'm not a Supernatural fan, so that one immediately gets me off. But now, since this one is so linear and there's not a lot to do, that one offers more replay value. So
Yeah,
now
for
it's
sure.
switched. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my big problem with this mission is like what you said, Seth. It's like any other mission, you can be like, all right, I'm going to go in through the basement, or I'm going to go in through this way, or I'm going to go in through that way. So there's like different ways you can approach it.
You
But
got
with this
options.
mission, it's like, yeah, you have options. But with this mission, you're like, I'm going to follow again. Like, you know what I mean? There's no way to. It goes back to that interactivity that I forget who mentioned it earlier, but one of the commenters mentioned about, just the ways you can interact with the mission, with the objectives, with the environment is very like limited. So like whenever I replay the game, I'm like, oh wait, I can't wait to play like Life of the Party and a bunch of other missions, and then I get to this one, I'm like, like it's just very like becomes tedious. Like there's no you don't really gain anything from a gameplay standpoint, like any appreciation from doing it over again. Like maybe from a story standpoint, you do gain appreciation for it because it is that. Like Stealth Doc said, it is that sort of bridge between the first half and second half, and that's really important. But from a gameplay standpoint, you don't really learn anything new in terms of like how to play Thief or how your Thief like style works, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I think that's what our episode also describes, is that it's really hard to make an episode out of this mission because there is really not much to talk about. So I think
we're almost 2 hours.
Yeah,
we're doing good.
No, I'm not blaming us. I still think it's one of the weakest episodes ever, but it's not our fault. But I think it's because of the mission. So I think without the comments, there wouldn't have been much else. So
that is true.
I think it was a good idea to add them, and I'm really grateful for the Taffers that they added so much interesting thoughts. So we had some footage and ideas, and I think we also had some nice ideas. But yeah, so for me, it's, in my opinion, in Thief 2, in my opinion, it's the weakest mission. So where would you put it in your ratings when you just look at Thief 2? Because the Lost City, of course, is
the best mission.
What? Sorry, the I can change that, in post production. So the worst mission. Yeah, I got that.
Just a really badly edited like Seth impression, like edited over.
It's like text to speech, like, yeah, it's the worst
Microsoft
mission.
Sam. Exactly.
I do not know.
For me, it's not the worst. However, no matter how much I try, the Soul Forge just doesn't
rub you the right way.
Nah, just doesn't work with me. And
I replayed it, by the way, Soul Forge recently.
So did I.
Was not too bad, but sorry.
That's for later.
Anyway, it's definitely not the worst one, but it's not the one. It's definitely not one that It's a mission that I don't look forward to it, but it's also not a mission, where shit, that one's coming up.
No.
Okay, right. I'll chill for a little bit if I'm playing the campaign, then.
But if this is not the worst mission, what mission is?
For me, Soul Forge.
I would agree at one thing, but Soul Forge actually has interesting things, and challenges, and
Yeah, I know. None of them.
It has some cool set pieces too.
Yeah, sure. It's just somehow it's just too tedious. I don't like running around factories. It just doesn't hit me. Maybe the Soul Forge suffers also from the fact that it's large, and it's the final mission, so it has some shoes to fill. Whereas the Trace of Courier, yeah, it has assassins. It doesn't fill those shoes, but who cares? It's forgettable.
You have a point there. Yeah, it's just a transition to it's just Trail of Blood, and then we are finally at the best mission of the game, Life of the Party.
That one is quite nice.
Maybe we can actually realize it this year. So because we already have almost September, so we have to talk about Trail of Blood. And but the other, where would you put the mission? I think not everybody already said something, right?
I think I would actually put it below the first mission, because the first mission at least offers you the option of only doing the training objectives and then finishing, but the alternative of exploring the rest of the mansion before the end. Whereas Trace the Courier doesn't offer you the alternatives explicitly, you know?
When you mean the first mission, what do you mean by that? Running interference?
Yeah.
Or
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because running interference, you have to rescue Jenny, but you have the option of just rescuing Jenny and getting out, or rescuing Jenny and then,
And staying in.
Staying in.
Lock yourself in that room. Have a big surprise for the owners.
Oh
Hey,
yeah,
Rumsford.
Can I wash your feet?
Yeah, Garrett
I'm
Fear.
going to the bear pits tomorrow.
I just like the idea, like they open the door and Jennifer, you can't come out and wash my feet, and then it's Garrett.
He just does a really bad. He's a really bad like female voice.
Hey, no,
my map.
Stephen
It's
Russell.
like a Monty Python sketch.
Stephen Russell would do a great lady voice, I think.
But before we go to other missions, there's something that we haven't touched yet in
Trace the Courier.
Trace of Courier. Damn, it's really forgettable.
What were we talking about the whole time?
Let's talk about the cemetery. That's the one that was so looking forward to talk about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we haven't touched the when the pagan comes there and then the three mechanists rush out. They wound him. He goes into the the cemetery, and then it's, I don't know, one of the best comedy skits of whole Thief universe unfolded, right there. Everybody's trying to find the reason why it's not really, it's needless to go into the cemetery, to me, it felt like, they're all afraid to go in there, and I think the female one says, it's, this is the only entrance, why should we? There's no... You guys enjoy that?
That's actually a cool moment, yeah. But again, it's at the end,
Yeah.
It's the part you forget because you're just about to jump into the portal.
That's true. But I'm not going to forget this, right? Before when I was telling you guys about how Garrett must be, wearing something weird because, other citizens are walking past cards, with no repercussions. But, as soon as I come there, it's you'll get that guy,
Yeah.
And the same thing happened here, right? It's been so long since I played the mission that I forgot that there's a secret entrance to the cemetery that I used to go into because the main entrance is well guarded now.
Yeah.
And when they started, saying, "Oh, we don't really need to go in there. It's not a place for such righteous
It's not a place for the
people."
living to tread at night.
Exactly, yeah. And I was like, I know what I have to do, because I wanted the mission to end at that point. I was like, I'm just going to run past them, like that guy did. It worked for that guy. As soon as I went past them into the cemetery, suddenly they weren't afraid anymore. And it's like all three of them behind me.
Yeah, because they knew, okay, now it's Garrett and he will save us.
He's the big fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if the real reason they want to, why they're hostile to Garrett, not anyone else, isn't because they think he's a criminal, because of his tap shoes? They're like, man, that guy's so annoying. He's got his tap shoes on. Like, let's get him.
One question I have is, the mechanists are waiting for the pagan, right?
Yeah, they're waiting in ambush, ironically.
And no, I mean here. And so
And he's
That was the
not
joke.
worth
They're
it.
waiting to ambush him.
No,
Yeah.
what I'm okay, you don't mean the mission. Okay, sorry. So what I don't get is like, okay, Garrett knows of Mosley, so he's following her at the right time, where she will deliver the letter. And then also the mechanists know about this pagan guy. So, they are not very good at hiding. When two different factions at one night know about your things somehow,
Yeah. It's true. Their plan has been very much compromised. Like multiple factions like now know about about what's going on. So it's like their counterintelligence isn't very strong when you have the mechanists that know and Garrett knows and
I think this all
everybody
goes
else
back to
knows.
Victoria, right? Victoria and the Trickster failed in the first one. They completely underestimated Garrett, and like the Trickster again was killed by a piece of concrete cast by the hammers. So like here we are, old Victoria's secret plans being foiled again.
So you guys think that the mechanists were, intentionally ambushing this specific guy, or do you think that this was,
They were just beating up some
coincidental?
now dead shopkeeper.
Sorry?
Right place, right time.
I think that's more because the mechanism pagans. I think any mechanist, any pagan walks by a mechanist, and maybe Garrett's
pull
a
the trigger.
mechanist. Sorry, maybe Garrett's a pagan. But yeah, but then again, the guards aren't mechanists, so that falls all right off.
What? Yeah. No, I think they are there on purpose. They're awaiting him. I think.
I agree. Yep, I think so too. I think they're waiting to I think they know he's going to be there and I think they're waiting for him. But how did they know? That's the thing. Like how do they know?
And
That's
why do
the
they
thing,
wait in front of the cemetery? What they are afraid of?
Because like you said, how do they know that he's gonna come there? Maybe when you're following Mosley, you have to turn around and look behind you, and there's another mechanist following you.
No, three mechanists, like always, like doop 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 doop.
I think it's implied that this isn't the first time Mosley's done this. So, in theory, they could have just found out on a previous night and staked out the location at the end of the walk, right?
It's true.
Obviously, that portal is a place where they usually travel from the forest to the city. So
And it's there so that because they know people will go in there.
yeah, so he probably came from there, and
Doesn't
they knew.
Truart or somebody mention in one of the readables in Framed that they suspect that Mosley has sympathies with pagans due to how she's been treating them?
And the fact that she has a garden.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Truart says something like, "I'm gonna need to talk to Mosley because she hasn't punished the pagans," or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's showing mercy, too much mercy.
Yeah, it's not a direct suspicion. It's just I think at that point he just thinks that she's not performing the duty.
Yeah, she's a softie.
Yeah, not that she's in line with pagans, but it's a good, not foreshadowing, but it's a hint for the future.
What I also don't get is, aren't the blue coats supposed to get rid of all the scum on the streets? Why is this pagan? Because I just look at the stream, and at the gameplay, and he's just crossing a guard, a blue coat, and nothing happens.
I think they just look like regular, like poor people to the guards.
So how does Garrett look like?
Vagabonds.
Even pagan.
Yeah, that's true.
But Garrett, no.
He used his pagan mind trick.
Yeah. Oh, he's just saying, no, I'm a Tagan.
Aren't many of the guards criminals though in Thief 2? Like I think isn't it mentioned that a lot of them were like recruited into the guards?
Yeah, it was.
So
if there's a readable that says like, they'll hire anyone these days.
yeah, so it's like the criminals are off the streets because they're in the blue coats and
or or under the masks. Yeah. So
exactly. Yep.
So yeah, I don't know. For my part, I think we talked about most of it, or is there anything you want to add to the cemetery next?
You know, if you need something, then I suppose the two zombies in there were a little bit weird. I always thought that, you know, zombies would or corpses would turn into zombies, you know, whenever some sort of magic influenced them, not just any, right? But here you have a fresh corpse and it immediately turns into a.
I think that's evidence of the justification for the mechanists being nervous about going in, right?
That's true, yeah.
But do we need justification for someone that's actually the bad guy and, you know, believes in strange things? And I don't know. I think it's just for, you know, to add something to the cemetery to be aware of. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Also, I just realized that before I said that the mechanists probably knew that the pagan's going to come out, could go inside there because he came out of there. That would mean that this is some sort of point of travel for pagans.
Yeah, and that they actually need to follow him because, like,
exactly. Yeah.
But since they mentioned that there is no other way out, they are not aware of this. It seems.
Oh,
Well,
that's why.
Without trying to spoil the next mission, the mechanists are already in the forest. They've already found the portal.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Wow. I didn't think of that. No.
You know what would have been cool, and now it's time. Okay, so if we talked about that, it would have been cool if Garrett says, "Look, no, I need to prepare before I jump in there." So he leaves maybe through that secret exit, you know, in the wall at the cemetery, and robs some shops or something. And there are still maybe some more mechanists standing in front of the cemetery. And when he comes back, they're gone. So
they've gone through.
And yeah, and because then it would make sense, you know, that and maybe then that would be cool if the same mechanists in Trail of Blood would have like another dialogue, so you recognize the voices or something, you know. So it's them. And I think that would have been even cooler, like when you come back to the cemetery and like, oh, where are they now? And then you go through the portal and then you see like all the mess they already created.
Yeah, I agree. That definitely would have been a cool narrative. Maybe they didn't have the voice actors at that point, though. Maybe the lines were already done.
I don't know. But that would be a cool idea, you know, like, yeah.
So what's our bucket list for how to do Trace the Courier but better?
I think we added so much already. so
we got multiple routes, rooftops.
Rooftops was a great idea, yeah.
What? Sorry, what was it?
More voice acting, readables.
Interesting things happening. You know, another theme, like, you know, as we said, a parade or something, a festival.
Or a seasonal change, yeah.
Yeah.
New map, maybe.
New map, different gameplay. so like
totally new mission, basically.
It's totally new mission. Yeah.
I think that's the point there. I think, you know, I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea if somebody remakes the Thief 2 campaign, but still, I didn't before, but after this episode, I really want to see some fan missions utilizing this mechanic, and there were at least 10 ideas thrown out throughout this podcast that could give you ideas what can be done with the patrol mechanic, how it can be improved and create something, you know, with a wow factor.
I leave it to some enterprising author to pursue that endeavor.
Same here, but I do hope that happens. Brethren, if you're listening, let's do that.
Yeah. But, you know, I think Brethren is still, you know, I think I don't know, he always says, oh yeah, I have to listen to more of the episodes. He always says that, you know. So I think, yeah, I have to write him a message.
Yeah. Do it.
Yeah, I do it. So trace the courier contest coming. Another service brought to you by Inside at Last.
People will be like, oh, good. 10 missions where I have to follow somebody.
10
Thank you.
10 little couriers would be the mission then.
Thanks, Inside at Last.
Hey, we
Tracing the courier.
we already had at least 2 cool contest ideas on this podcast. So
It'd be tracing the career if it was a whole campaign.
oh yeah, if you trace the courier throughout 15 missions. That's a challenge, to make 15 interesting following missions. But I think we spread a lot of ideas, so I think there was enough footage for the authors to pick something and make a great mission.
I mean, now that you said 15 missions, I feel like I have to intersect and remind everybody about what Seth said a couple of times, where the payoff at the end does a lot for the follow mission. So don't do what Trace the Courier did, right? Don't dedicate a whole mission to one mechanic.
Yeah.
It's an element. Let it help, but not.
So, just one thing on the live stream. Ciro Cardozo, I don't know how to spell that name, but he's asking like how to explain. We should do a tutorial explaining how to install the fan missions. So I hope that this thread might help you.
You just point him to the forums.
Yeah, just to the thread, like fan mission FAQ. I think that should answer. What is a fan mission? How do I get the game ready to play FMs? Blah blah blah.
I mean,
no, it's outdated. I think.
I could give a short answer. In your thief directory, there is a text file you need to edit, and you need to remove one character in order to enable the fan mission selector.
I think it's really hard to do that from an audio, like to remember this.
Also, if anybody's not computer savvy,
yeah,
they can listen to it over and over, though.
Yeah,
whenever
so just Google thief how to play fan missions, and you will find something. Or yeah.
Actually, just install Angel Loader. That's it. You install that program. You point him to your thief directory. It does everything else.
Yeah, but if he doesn't know how to install fan missions, I think he doesn't know about New Dark, so he needs that for newer fan missions, and so on. So there's some things to do, T-fix and stuff like that.
I mean, he should come to the forums, register, and just ask a question. If anything is outdated, it's gonna get updated just for him, I'm sure.
No, but I think there are certain threats that will answer this question.
I mean, if something like that is outdated, I'm sure it's in all of our interest to get it updated, just to get some new blood in.
Yeah. And not a trail of blood. So, Teffers, I would say we really squeezed the lemon. And got everything out of this, at least in my opinion, because we really tried hard to make this an interesting episode.
Good write-ins from people. People wrote some really good stuff. Everyone did. Really interesting thoughts.
You mean the comments from before?
Yes.
Yeah.
The write-ins. Yep, good stuff.
Yeah.
We should definitely encourage them for the following mission as well.
For all of them, I really like this idea, actually, to have more interaction with the community. And, that's why the Discord and the streams. And it's really fun, We're building our own thief community here.
Where should people go to leave their comments for Trail of Blood?
I would, before we, I will do that when we have a date, when we will do it. One of the next episodes will be the summer speed build competition.
Uh-huh.
Then we have, at the end of September, probably, we have another author as a guest. And yeah, so that, but I don't know in what order we can do it. It always depends on our schedule. So, but yeah, so the next original mission will be earliest in October or November. So, then I will kick out a video again on the YouTube channel, and where you can see my pretty face maybe, and then I will ask the guys.
Beautiful.
That's how it works. It worked very good the first time, so maybe people get used to it. That's cool. So, but I think best is go on to our Discord, which is linked in the description, or add on our YouTube channel. The podcast channel, not the broadcast channel. It's really hard to run an empire like that. I feel like Karis. I have my little spies everywhere. So.
All shall hear the words of Alex. The words of Alex.
Pot Karis, I am Pot Karis.
Hot damn, that's a good impression.
Yeah, he's great with the voices, so we don't need a Bevan Crussell.
just need a better mic.
That, not just for that. So we need a Patreon, I think. Just, to buy...
buy Seth a mic.
But Jeff and Sake, better mics.
I'll buy you a mic if you record some lines that I can use as a new email or new SMS received.
It's done. I'll do it.
He will give you $1,000, by the way.
Sweet.
Wait, no, 1,000.
You wanted to pay Stephen Russell this amount.
I mean, it's a good impression, I'll admit,
Hey, but I did a great impression on one of the streams. Ask Zulu. He can, I think he heard it. But I worked just in that moment. I tried later, and then it wasn't like, I do not know. But maybe if I try, let's have a Karis contest. By the way, what I'm really happy about is, I did the playback video on 20% of play speed. And we are at the end now. This is pretty cool.
It lined up beautifully.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you, what was the idea behind making it so slow? But
you see why? Because I think my playthrough was 23 minutes. So
make it perfectly timed.
Yeah, everything is so organized here. Everything, like everyone, the whole conversation is already written as a script, and you guys just read, right?
We're all excellent actors.
Yeah, and that's why it takes so long between the episodes, because I have to write the whole script and
send help. I'm stuck in Alex's basement.
I mean, because when I looked at the live stream and saw your video, at first I thought, finally you're playing like I want you to play, slow and careful. But no, it's slowed down 20%.
Is it just me, or is there a forest texture behind the portal? You see that?
Wait, I can turn it back some seconds.
I don't know. It could just be me, but it looks like there's a bunch of vertical lines behind that portal.
Let's see. I don't know. But you know what? We can already say bye-bye to all the listeners, because from the normal podcast version, I think it's not very interesting. So thanks for listening, everybody, and thanks for joining the chat, and all your support, all your comments, all your amazing stuff that you are interacting with us. And yeah, the project is really going well. I'm very, very happy. And yeah, any last words from you guys? I didn't see a texture there.
No, just thank you everybody for listening and all your support and great comments.
And see you next time.
See you next time. Next.
I started a bit because essentially we're not going to be seeing each other. But you can't really say listen because,
Yeah, because you're always going, when you're visiting Germany, you're not going over Switzerland, just over Austria.
It's just, what's an 8-hour detour?
Right. You know, but Switzerland, some things. I'll talk to you later about that. So, yeah. So, thanks for listening, and bye.
Goodbye, Caffers.
I think that's a cool thing on the live stream. We can still have like the after conversation live.
Yeah, sure.
Or maybe not. I don't know.
Well, depends on the topic. You can always turn it off, right?
Yeah. No, it's running 24 hours. My life is just, it's like watching Big Brother.
I mean, I was just gonna answer. Was it Jake? I think it was Jake. How I use the scouting orbs, but I don't want the public to hear that.
That's private
top secret.
information.
So wait, I end the stream. Bye.
Because when you started